learned this evening's breaking reports surrounding Raphinha, as Barcelona now are starting to heat up when it comes to signing the player from us. On top of this, it's official now, we are making new negotiation efforts to try and sign Ligt. And on top of that, you guys, we have more news surrounding Nathan Ake, as it does seem like Tuchel sees him as Antonio Rudiger's successor down that left hand side. Ton of things to break down, reports and discuss tonight, you guys. I hope you enjoy. I want to say quickly though, thank you to everyone that showed a lot of love in the comments in the last video I released. That really took me back, took me by surprise too, I have to admit, but it was really nice reading a lot of your support and messages, so I really appreciate that, you guys. Today's video, let's go over 3k likes, and without wasting any more time, so right now let's kick things off and let's talk the latest news involving Nathan Ake. Now, this report came out from Matt Law tonight. Got some more insight, got some more information. There was a previous report that came out from another platform, and it was quite interesting. It mentioned that both Sterling and Ake have the same ambition when it comes to signing for us and challenging Man City dominance, which is the type of competition and mentality that you want to hear from in any potential signing you're making. But anyway, it seems like we are getting closer and closer to signing the player. Now, reports came out from a different platform where it's saying that Man City ideally don't want to sell the player. Now, Ake, especially during the second half of last season, he stepped up big for Man City. He stepped up big in Europe as well too. He's proven to be a very reliable squad player for them, and Man City fans have a lot of respect for him and actually really admire the work he did for them last season. City, they don't want to sell, and bids of less than 50 million aren't enough. They want bids of over 50 million because right now they are thread thin in defence. Some reports are saying that ideally Man City would only sell Ake until they sign a replacement first, which you would understand. They're currently constructing another super squads, and if anyone's leaving, they need replacements to come in first. Now, I know it's a city, but it would be so ironic and funny that imagine if Man City made a move for Guy to replace Ake. That would kind of sum things up, to be fair. But anyway, you guys, going back to Matt Law's report, he still states that we are still expressing interest and intent to sign Koundé, which is quite contradictory because Koundé's agent is saying that there hasn't been recent contact made for his client. He's growing a bit frustrated at this point in time, and some reports are suggesting that this deal could be off, but maybe we're just holding things out. We have different priorities. Matt Law did report that people at the club right now would think it would be an amazing achievement this window if they signed 3 to 4 of their big main targets, and that's because we started late due to sanctions. We're playing catch up at this point in time, and it kind of explains why we're moving with so much haste, why we're moving so quickly in the window to get deals done. It doesn't feel typical for us. We're normally used to these deals getting longed out until the start of the season, but for me this is very refreshing, and let's hope Tuchel gets as many of these guys fit and ready for pre-season. Still though, Ake has Premier League experience, knows the club, and plays very well down that left hand side, and on top of this he does bring versatility too. I mean, he can play all down the left hand side, left back, left wing back, midfield, you can go on. And having players like this during a very difficult and demanding Premier League season, they end up being quite useful as the seasons go on. But of course though, with every decision made, there's normally consequences to them, and some reports are suggesting that maybe if Nathan Ake was signed, Levi Colwill's camp may be a bit threatened by that and believe that maybe the club don't have the best interest for their client, their son, their star, etc, etc. And it does make a lot of sense. Obviously, Levi Colwill had a great season on loan for Huddersfield. 6'3 plus, very fast, very good on the ball, plays line breaking passes, very good aerially, and he's a leader as well too. I mean, this guy, throughout the youth ranks in this country, he's been seen as one of the top guys in the nation ever since we signed him from Southampton's youth academy when he was like a 13 or 14-year-old. So we really have like a wonder kids on our hands right now, and I can kind of understand why maybe they'd be a bit aggrieved by the fact that someone like Ake is getting looked into immediately without there being any faith or consideration for Levi Colwill. At this point in time, there's interest from your Southamptons, Brightons, Leicester Cities of course, and Nottingham Forest too, with Southampton at this point in time doing the most to try and sign the player. Now, already I'm kind of getting like vibes and visions that they could maybe Van Dankify Levi Colwill, and sorry you guys for saying Van Dankify. I promise I'll never use that word again. But they're a club known for improving young players, and those young players moving on to bigger and greater things. I'd like to think that any move made for Nathan Ake isn't necessarily going to affect Levi Colwill's future. I'm hoping right now that he gets the right assurances that he needs to commit to the club, because we know that he would get looked into during pre-season. But let's hope that he gets fair assessment during pre-season, because we really have an amazing talent. And before I end with this first report, you guys, I just want to quickly say this. It is still a little bit ironic that, 2 years ago, we had an opportunity to sign Ake for 41 million. And at the time, we didn't take the offer because he wasn't maybe good enough to get in our defense. And since then, fast forward 2 years, we've lost Zuma, we've lost Rudiger, we've lost Christensen, we've lost Tomori, and we've lost Mark Gurley as well too. So it's like we're completing the full circle at this point in time. Some of the talent that's left us to, it puts things into context and perspective in my opinion. So right now, let's move on to the second latest breaking news involving Barcelona's efforts to try and sign Raphinha. There's been a ton of developments throughout the day involving the story. Barcelona doing the most right now to sign him away from us. Let's break down the story and let's learn what exactly has happened throughout the day. Barcelona are currently making an incredible fight back to try and sign their player away from us. They aren't giving up and they're continuing to make bids and hoping that Leicester City, of course, accept their demands. Now, the big story today is that Barcelona announced a cash injection of around 229 million. Essentially, this investment came from American Wall Street investment firm 6th Street. They sold 10% of their La Liga TV rights for the next 25 years to this investment firm. Absolutely crazy. They're going to make so much money from that. And when you're like a massive institution like Barcelona, a massive brand like that, you can find creative ways, of course, to raise funds. And they have raised funds now up to the tune of 200 million, which means that they should finally be able to announce Christensen, Kessie, make renewed efforts now for Lewandowski after Bayern Munich reduced their demands now to around 40 million. And this is giving them the impetus now to try and sign Raphinha. And it still brings interesting questions on what's happening with Ousmane Dembele, with reports saying that it's going to take until maybe tomorrow until there's a final course of action over these negotiations. But going back to the main story, last night, Deco, the agent of Raphinha, our former player, Barcelona's former player, he held talks with the Barcelona board last night. And of course, since then, they had the confidence then to start making moves and attempt to sign the player now. What's interesting though is that Leeds, of course, have rejected Barcelona's offer. It seems like the first initial one was just too low, and it relied upon Leeds receiving most of the money far into the future, and that's something they're naturally not going to commit to. But it seems another offer was made. This one was set at around 51 million plus 10 million in add-ons. It seems Leeds have also rejected this. You might be wondering why, but it comes down to this. The bids we made that got accepted by Leeds, we paid most of the money up front basically. And this is normally unheard of. It's not normally the common thing to do, but it's obvious with the speed in which we have to move in. And it puts yet a great negotiation advantage against other competitors for a signing, because there's also like another secret European club that have tried to get into this move who haven't been announced yet. So he's a very popular player, and Leeds United are keeping their gentleman's agreement at this point in time because of course they're receiving most of the money up front, which is going to allow them to invest into their squads for this summer and have more capital for that. Still though, with how Barcelona are moving, it seems like they're not going to give up too easily, but it does seem like if they want to sign the player, they're going to have to match our offer. That is the only way to get things done, and if that was the case, then I'd imagine that Leeds would be fine with that and they'd respect Raphinha's decision to join Barcelona, who are his dream club, even though he's still very open and happy to sign for us if a move to Barca doesn't work out. So a lot more to come with this story. A lot is happening. Things will intensify. I'm sure there's going to be big updates in the morning, so you guys make sure you have the bell notification button set because you don't want to miss none of these stories this summer. So now we end things with another breaking story, and that's surrounding our negotiation efforts again to sign Matthijs de Ligt. Now this was a big report that came from Matt Law, and as I've been saying time and time again, we are now making negotiation efforts to sign de Ligt. Matt Law reports that de Ligt is very keen on a move to sign for us, which is a big advantage in something like this. And even better news is it seems like Juventus are resigned to losing their star. And it seems like they've now softened their stance and their initial demands, because originally Juventus were like this: listen, if we're not getting that 102 million release clause met, then there's no deal going to happen here. But now that de Ligt's confirmed that he sees his future away from Juventus, now that he hasn't committed to signing a contract extension with them, they have to sell. They don't want to keep unhappy players here, and they could probably use that money and reinvest it back in the team. Now what's interesting, it seems the two players that could play a possible player exchange deal to get this move over the line is either Christian Pulisic or Timo Werner, which I find quite interesting. I'm always going to think, we spent 60 mil on Pulisic. Like, was this what was supposed to happen with his future here? It's not saying too much, to be fair. I'd wonder if the player would be down for that, but I'd guess it makes more sense for Timo Werner to be released. I think if Pulisic was still here as a squad player, hopefully if we're going to be using systems next season to get the best out of wingers, then you'll see new life in Hudson-Odoi and Christian Pulisic, in my opinion. So with Juventus softening their stance, hopefully it's going to be either one of these players, and maybe, I don't know, like 40 mil, 50 mil at least. I think that's more than fair, to be honest, as there isn't much competition for the player. Naturally, with competition, that creates bidding wars, and bidding wars drive the price evaluation all the way up there. So I can't imagine Juventus asking for a criminal amount of money, knowing that the player doesn't want to be here, and you could probably lose him in 2 years for nothing. So it seems like at this point in time, Matthijs de Ligt is the main defensive focus. Clearly we want to sign him. He's a leader, a player who could be here for the next 10 years as well too. And you're thinking playing in a new setup like us, where it relies on a lot more, proactiveness from defenders. Maybe you're seeing a lot more from De Ligt compared to him playing in a very structured and box defensive role, because at Ajax, they were playing with a higher line a lot of times, and him and Davinson Sanchez were very dynamic when it came to closing down threats and being defenders that you want to have if you're playing with a high line and defending counter-attacks. So Sterling, Raphinha, Dembele, De Ligt, Nathan Ake. Some things are happening this window, a lot more to come. And of course, to hear all the latest reports, you guys, BlueLionsTV is a place for you. On that note, I'm in EFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.